This is CBC Winnipeg News.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us. Prime Minister Mark Carney's trip to China has yielded positive results for Manitoba canola producers. Chinese tariffs on Canadian canola seed and meal are about to drop, but tariffs on canola oil and Canadian pork and the uncertainty that comes with those trade barriers remain. CBC's Bartlett Kivas reports.
The first visit by a Canadian Prime Minister to China in nearly a decade has borne fruit for agricultural producers here in Manitoba. Chinese tariffs on Canadian canola seed and meal are set to drop from 84% to 15%. Canola prices are up, providing some relief to producers like Blumenort area grain grower Mark Reimer, who planted canola last spring on about a fifth of his fields.
We agonized about it. We continued. Mostly because of good agronomic practices with rotation. So we didn't reduce our acres, but it did come with some anxiety.
This tariff reduction is temporary, however, and Chinese tariffs remain 100% on canola oil. Grain growers are looking for a permanent deal on all canola products.
The ideal would be that we can find a way to go back to a fully free trade without tariffs.
There's also no deal yet to roll back 25% Chinese tariffs on Manitoba pork.
For Manitoba, it was about our fifth largest market.
Manitoba Pork's Cam Dahl says the Chinese tariffs have cost pork producers here about $100 million, not because of the amount of pork we're sending to China, but the specific cuts.
Things like offal or heads, things like that, that you can't just take a container that's bound for China and say, hey, we'll send it to Mexico.
In Randolph, west of Steinbach, pork producer Scott Peters also says that Chinese consumers will eat cuts Canadians don't consume in large quantities.
They will eat the whole pig from front to back. And so we don't do that in Canada.
The Carney government has signaled a deal on pork could follow soon. Meanwhile, Ontario Premier Doug Ford isn't happy with the deal. Ford's upset Canadian tariffs on Chinese electric vehicles are dropping to allow canola producers better access there. Manitoba Premier Wab Kinew says the two products aren't the same.
This is a real impact today that we're facing with the Chinese tariffs on agricultural products. The impact on Ontario auto workers is something we're being warned about. We got to take seriously, but we got a bit of time, I would say.
Mark Carney was asked in Beijing whether China is now a more reliable trade partner than the United States. The Prime Minister said Canada's relationship with the U.S. is broader and deeper, but China is more predictable. Bartlett Kivas, CBC News, Winnipeg.
A junior officer arrested alongside a now disgraced police constable has pleaded guilty. Matthew Kadanook admitted to theft and breach of trust this morning. CBC's Caitlin Gowerluck was in court.
Pretty sure you're going to like what's in there.
He was caught on video stealing cigarettes, money, bear spray, and a knife from a backpack he believed was evidence in a break-in. On Friday, Winnipeg Police Constable Matthew Kadanook pleaded guilty to theft and breach of trust. Kadanook was arrested after this integrity test in 2024 as police investigated his partner, now disgraced officer Elston Bostock. What they thought was a vehicle break-in was actually a staged incident where a fake victim played by an undercover RCMP officer confronted a made-up suspect and ripped a backpack off him while the suspect ran away. You can see Bostock and Kadanook pop the trunk and go through the bag. They find cash and what looks like drugs.
So we got 75 in cash, and there's more of those pills in the bags here. Yeah, at the bottom.
And I don't think the drug dealer's going to come back and claim the code alert line out. I don't think that's going to happen.
Those videos were released after Bostock's sentencing hearing this week. He's admitted to years of corruption and other crimes. In court Friday, Kadanook struggled to say the word guilty when entering his plea. The judge said, "I can tell this is a serious moment in your life." While Bostock has been removed from the force, court heard Kadanook is suspended without pay. His lawyer said he plans to ask for a suspended sentence, though prosecutors could ask for up to 2 years less a day to be served in the community. Both Bostock and Kadanook are awaiting sentencing. Caitlin Gowerluck, CBC News, Winnipeg.
A 42-year-old worker has died after an incident at a food manufacturing factory near Altona. RCMP say it happened yesterday just before noon. Officers were called to the factory in the Rhineland Industrial Park. They say the 42-year-old had been pulled into a piece of machinery. He was being treated for his injuries by EMS and was rushed to HSC in Winnipeg, but didn't survive. RCMP have not said what type of equipment caused his initial injuries. Manitoba says it won't participate in the federal government's gun buyback program. It's designed to pay gun owners who give up weapons that fall under 2,500 types of outlawed firearms. As CBC's Gavin Axelrod shows us, the province's decision is welcome news for licensed gun owners in Manitoba.
So this one's just a pump action, tactical, mag fed. It's got a folding stock.
Daryl Tomlinson shows off some hardware at the Gateway Gun Club. He's an owner of the Canadian Gun Guys, a gunsmithing and firearms outfitter based in Winnipeg.
This is just a Remington 597 22 with a bull barrel, semi-auto with a 10-round mag.
He's glad the provincial government won't participate in the federal gun buyback program.
People know we're not the problem, and we know we're not the problem. We're not committing crimes, so we don't feel we should have to give up our firearms.
Ottawa has earmarked over $700 million for the program, targeting weapons it says are meant for warfare, not hunting or sport. The program pays people to turn in outlawed firearms. In a letter Thursday, Justice Minister Matt Wiebe wrote that money would be better directed to frontline policing. On Friday, Manitoba Premier Wab Kinew, who is a gun owner, said the program is no good.
We just think there's a lot of headaches here that are not going to make our community safer.
A 6-week pilot in Nova Scotia saw just over 24 firearms given up by 16 people, even though the federal government expected to collect 200. Kinew says he is open to conversations about ways to get assault rifles out of the hands of criminals.
This is a federal government program that doesn't appear to be very efficient, doesn't appear to be well run.
Chris Heald with the Manitoba Wildlife Federation says the money could be better spent.
And target criminals that are the problem here. These aren't law-abiding hunters and trap shooters that are the issue. Direct those funds at the criminal activity.
Winnipeg Police entered into an agreement to administer the program last year, with the federal government set to cover all costs. The funding runs until the end of March. The federal government is expected to announce details of the full gun buyback program on Saturday. Gavin Axelrod, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Manitoba Public Insurance says it's eliminating Saturday service at 2 of its centres. It's part of changes to MPI's operating hours around the province. Starting in April, the service centres at Bison and on Main Street will only be open weekdays from 7:30 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. All other locations within Winnipeg and rural communities will be open Monday to Friday from 9 to 4:30. MPI says the changes align with customer demands and estimating appointment needs. It says those services have been offered at claim centres on weekdays only since the pandemic. Well, RCMP have been busy with multiple crashes today as icy roads and poor visibility has made for dangerous road conditions around the province, along with many highway closures. The Trans-Canada Highway between Portage-La Prairie and Headingley was closed after a number of collisions. It included 2 multi-vehicle crashes near Oakville. You can see what visibility was like today in these videos. Mounties say at least 5 vehicles were involved in one of those crashes, including an RCMP cruiser. RCMP say crews along with EMS have been ferrying people to the hospital. However, at this time, no serious injuries are believed to have occurred. All right, let's bring in Riley Lachak. And Riley, it has been a busy day out on the roadways. Lots of people trying to maneuver their way around the province. Lots of icy roads and a lot of highway closures as well.
Yeah, lots of highway closures. And Brittany, those will continue as we get into the evening hours tonight, as will the visibility issues. Here's a look outside of our camera here in downtown Winnipeg. And yeah, you can see some of that blowing snow off on the horizon, not as crisp as this image usually is. Looking at winds, at the moment at least anyway, as expected, still gusting up to 60 in parts of south central Manitoba. We have seen some gusts pretty consistently close to that 60 mark in parts of the province, especially in the south as we've gotten throughout the day today. But even up, Highway 10, the Paw, Lynn Lake seeing some very gusty winds, and also along the Hudson Bay coast. That's all the result of an area of low pressure that's now sunk south of the border. We're left with a bit of precipitation in the wake of this. Some very light snow has been making its way through parts of the province as we've gotten throughout the day. Today, we still have a blowing snow advisory in place for that Trans-Canada corridor, Highway 2, Highway 3 south of the city, where we are looking at the potential for some very strong winds still tonight, blizzard warnings on the large lakes, and some very cold air coming in behind this as well. So already cold warnings in place for a good chunk of northern Manitoba, where we are looking at the potential of seeing wind chill values overnight tonight close to the -45 to -50 mark. That is frostbite on exposed skin in minutes, and this will last as we get through the weekend. Brittany, I'll go into details on all of this when I come back.
All right, dangerous conditions. Thank you, Riley.
You're welcome.
Experimenting with seatbelts on school buses, the areas that are already piloting the safety study, and what we know so far when we come back. Fewer people are taking buses in Winnipeg. New city data shows transit ridership fell between September and December compared to the same time a year earlier. It's raising new questions about the city's major overhaul of the transit system. CBC's Cameron McLean reports.
During the morning rush hour, riders pack onto Winnipeg Transit buses, but the number taking the bus has fallen. Winnipeg Transit data shows that between the start and end of the fall schedule, it gave an estimated total of more than 178,000 rides, about 29,000 fewer than the same period the year before, a nearly 14% drop. It comes after Winnipeg rolled out a complete overhaul of the bus routes, meant to make the system more frequent and reliable. Many riders complained about longer trips, more transfers, and fewer stops. City officials acknowledge the drop in ridership, but they say it's part of a wider trend.
Transit ridership is down across the nation. And so, Winnipeg, I wouldn't expect to be any different. We would, see some of the same impacts. And it could be certainly immigration levels have been reduced, and some foreign student numbers have dropped as well.
Statistics Canada data shows transit ridership in October fell by 3.6% across the country. Some major metro systems like Toronto experienced a drop. Other cities like Vancouver have seen passenger numbers rise. Winnipeg Transit's manager of service development says the decrease started before the new network launched.
We were seeing a ridership decline starting in late 2024, and that kept going right through until the launch of the new network in June. And this is something that actually transit systems across the country have been seeing.
Radstrom says the city expected a temporary drop after the new system launched, as riders affected by the route change stopped riding and new riders slowly begin to try the system for the first time. The city responded in December by rewriting schedules, adding capacity on crowded routes, and restoring late-night service in most on-request zones. The city says it will take at least a full year of operation before they can judge whether the new network is actually working and whether bigger changes are needed. Cameron McLean, CBC News, Winnipeg.
A school bus crash in northern Manitoba has reignited the debate about whether or not there should be mandatory seatbelts on buses. 2 communities in Ontario and 2 in BC introduced seatbelts on school buses in recent years. And while they say there may be a steep learning curve, as CBC's Bryce Hoy reports, it did come with some upsides.
This year, your school bus might be equipped with seatbelts.
That's a video from Sudbury, Ontario, teaching kids how to buckle up on school buses. It was part of the city's experiment on 3 buses to see if seatbelts improved safety for students.
And those 3 drivers have said they don't ever want to go back to a bus without seatbelts. So it has been very positive for us, not solely during the pilot project, but now as well.
There may be lessons here for Manitoba, where calls are growing for seatbelts in buses after a rollover on an icy road near Swan River on Tuesday. It left 14 high schoolers and a driver shaken. 2 of the students were ejected from the bus, and 3 ended up airlifted to Winnipeg.
Sudbury was one of 4 communities that recently tested out 3-point seatbelts. It was part of a Transport Canada pilot. Now, there was a learning curve, but training both for parents and students helped fix that.
First, you must ensure to be properly seated, facing forward, and sitting up straight.
That includes a how-to buckle up video.
Insert the seatbelt into the buckle, listen to make sure it clicks.
Sudbury found parents felt buses were safer. Seatbelts only increased the time it took kids to evacuate by about 14 seconds, and students got fewer minor injuries from jostling around on bumpy roads. And an unexpected upside:
As soon as we introduce the seatbelts, the children don't have a choice but to sit down and buckle up. So it has helped with the discipline issues on those buses, which explains why those drivers absolutely love them.
Renee Boucher says that if money were no object, she'd like to expand seatbelts on school buses. Premier Wab Kinew says that he's open to that conversation, but he won't commit to anything until we know more about what happened in the crash near Swan River. Bryce Hoy, CBC News, Winnipeg.
WestJet is canceling a new cabin configuration that would have added an extra row of seating on many of its aircraft. The reversal comes after passenger frustration and backlash over having less leg room. The airline will return to its prior seating arrangement for economy class cabins on those recently configured planes and remove one row of seats. Executives say the decision was made following feedback from employees and customers. Well, it's about that time of year where we start to see many people jetting off to get out of this winter weather that we're seeing. So probably some good news for a lot of people that are going to be taking off in the near future. Maybe getting out of this weather this week.
Yeah, I think it was likely a miserable drive home for a lot of folks.
Time to stay home if you can tonight, too.
Tonight into the early morning, Brittany, good time to stay home. And then in behind this, some much cooler air starts to push into the province again. So we have more snow in the forecast, more wind in the forecast, and more cold, which I'll talk about right now. I'll start with the trend, the 10-day temperature trend here to show us where we're going. And you'll see as we get toward the end of the month here, things really start to cool off once again. So as we get into the start of next week, temperatures, below seasonal by a few degrees. We should be around -13 for this time of the year, topping out around -16 by the time we get to next Wednesday. But the forecast modeling indicating a big deep freeze coming our way toward the end of the month of January, and this pattern holds as we get toward the beginning of February, in fact. So prepare for a period of temperatures that will be below seasonal for this time of the year. Make sure you've got, the extra toques, the extra mitts, all of that stuff in the car, because you may end up needing it, especially when we see temperatures dipping into the -20s for daytime highs. Around the prairies, satellite and radar, high pressure has started to push into northern Saskatchewan. This is going to push southward as we get into the night tonight and start to clear us out, bring us back toward a clear sky. However, it's short-lived because there's another system coming in behind this. So prepare for a bit of a messy weekend ahead. The rest of the instability that we have to contend with tonight pushes out by the early morning hours. By Saturday morning, in fact, we're back to a mainly sunny sky across much of the province, although still windy. I'll talk about the winds in just a moment. But on the heels of this, as we get into the afternoon hours tomorrow, this next low starts to push in, following the jet stream, that river of air, that storm track that's been bringing us clipper after clipper. This is the same situation. In fact, another quick mover across the province. I'm not expecting any major accumulations again, maybe 2 to 4 centimeters locally, some locations possibly up to 5. So again, a quick mover, but it does come with some wind as we get through into the day on Sunday. So prepare for another dicey drive as we get Sunday into early Monday morning. So wind staying very strong as we get through the evening hours tonight, looking at gusts up to 60 or 70 in south central parts of the province and into the Red River Valley. This is where we'll likely see into the night tonight some very poor visibility, near zero visibility at times, and some blowing snow. So again, if you don't have to be on the highways tonight into the morning hours on Saturday, best to stay put where you are. Once we get into the afternoon, we will start to see the winds letting up a bit, but still looking at 20 gusting 40 as we get into the afternoon. And then the wind picks up again as that next system pushes into the province into Sunday. Same situation, looking at the potential for gusts of up to 40 or 50 kilometers an hour once again. So a couple rounds of this coming as we get through the weekend here, and then temperatures fall in behind that. So by the afternoon, temperatures fall or hang steady around -20, 22 in Winnipeg, -21 in Brandon, and close to the -30 mark into parts of northern Manitoba. And the long range looks cooler than that as well, falling to -20 through the afternoon on Sunday, Brittany, -19 into Monday, and then we have another chance of flurries as we get into the day on Tuesday.
All right. Thank you, Riley.
Welcome.
All right. Well, hopefully you are staying warm. We have much more ahead right after this. Stay with us. Prime Minister Mark Carney calls the deal on canola tariffs with China a landmark deal, one that sets the stage for a new trading relationship. The CBC's Ashley Burke is in Beijing with more.
The Very Honorable Mark Carney.
After a meeting with China's president, Mark Carney announcing a breakthrough.
Today, Canada and China have reached a preliminary but landmark trade agreement to remove trade barriers and reduce tariffs.
The Prime Minister telling business leaders it's the start of a new era with Beijing.
Canada now has set the goal of doubling our exports to China by the end of this decade.
Welcome.
Chinese President Xi Jinping says there's been a turnaround in relations. Carney says China is agreeing to drop tariffs on Canadian canola meal, lobster, crab, and peas, and lowering tariffs hitting Canadian canola seed to about 15% by March.
This change represents a significant drop from the current combined tariff levels of 84%.
But no movement on pork or canola oil. In return, Carney agreeing to verge from the United States, slashing a 100% tariff on up to 49,000 Chinese electric vehicles entering Canada, a move that could upset Ontario's hard-hit auto sector.
We're returning to the levels of Chinese automobiles as a cap that we had 2 years ago. So that's less than 3% of the Canadian auto sectors.
After this tariff deal, Carney asked if he now sees China as a more predictable partner than the United States.
The one comparison I will give you with the United States, our relationship, this is no insight, is much more multifaceted, much deeper, much broader than it is with China. But yes, in terms of the way that our relationship has progressed in recent months with China, it is more predictable.
Less than a year ago, Carney called China the biggest threat to Canada's security. Now he says Canada faces many threats in the world, but it's his job to manage them. The Prime Minister also says that he stands up for human rights, but the government takes the world as it is, not how it wishes it could be. Ashley Burke, CBC News, Beijing.
Under the terms of that new deal, Canada will allow some Chinese electric vehicles into the country. The new agreement is sparking all sorts of reaction from the Canadian auto sector. The CBC's Nisha Patel has those details.
Canada's deal with China could shake up the country's auto sector and the companies that already do business here.
This issue is just, it's not helped the industry out. It's actually complicated it even further by adding one more piece of uncertainty into an already uncertain environment.
Ottawa will allow imports of 49,000 Chinese-made electric vehicles at a low tariff rate. While that's less than 3% of new vehicles sold, it makes up almost 19% of the market for new zero-emission vehicles.
Every single sale counts. It's much better to get that sale from a company that's manufacturing here, that's buying supplies here, and employing Canadians here.
The agreement is expected to drive new Chinese investments in Canada over the next 3 years, though the federal government provided few details.
We are putting at risk good union jobs and the entire auto sector in Canada by opening the floodgates to cars that are built with incredible subsidies and with very cheap labor in China.
For Chinese brands like BYD, it's an opportunity to break into the Canadian market. The company has made a name for itself with affordable pricing and innovative technology, and took the title of the world's largest EV seller in 2025.
Chinese electric cars are completely amazing, and frankly, almost better offerings than what we're getting here in North America.
Fresh competition could kickstart sales in Canada's sluggish EV market. Chinese-made EVs could ring up at less than $35,000, putting pressure on players like Tesla to cut prices. It's not clear when Chinese EVs like BYD might be available here. Automakers could ramp up production and ship models quickly, but they'll still need certification to make sure they meet Canadian safety standards. Nisha Patel, CBC News, Toronto.
U.S. President Donald Trump fielded a question on the deal. His response? Apparently unconcerned. Have a look.
Well, that's okay. That's what he should be doing. I mean, it's a good thing for him to sign a trade deal. If you can get a deal with China, you should do that.
Meantime, U.S. President Trump threatened Friday to place tariffs on countries that don't support his plan to take over Greenland. The latest threats come as a group of bipartisan U.S. lawmakers visited Denmark in an effort to ease tensions. The 11-member group met with various members of parliament, including both the Danish and Greenland prime ministers. Trump has repeatedly stated that the U.S. needs Greenland for its security and has said that the U.S. would get it, quote, the easy way or the hard way. Denmark has warned that any aggressive action would signal the end of NATO. The former president of South Korea has been sentenced to 5 years in prison for abuse of power, obstructing justice, and fabricating official documents. The charges stem back to his failed attempt to impose martial law in December of 2024. Yoon Suk-yeol was then impeached later that month. During Friday's trial, a judge said that Yoon's actions created a political crisis in the country. The trial marked the first of 4 that Yoon faces in relation to his botched martial law attempt. He faces multiple charges in the remaining trials, the most serious being insurrection, for which Yoon could face the death penalty. That verdict is expected in February. Yoon has denied all charges. He remains the first president in South Korea to be arrested while in office. The Federal Court of Appeal ruled Friday the Liberal government did not have reasonable grounds to invoke the Emergencies Act in 2022. At the time, it was a controversial move aimed at quelling convoy protests in Ottawa. The CBC's Olivia Stefanovich has more on that decision.
After a month of horns blaring and trucks blocking traffic in downtown Ottawa, former Prime Minister Justin Trudeau responded to the 2022 convoy protest in a big way.
The federal government has invoked the Emergencies Act,
authorizing the first ever use of extraordinary, albeit temporary, powers to end the blockade.
Hold the line!
Hold the line!
Hold that line! You must leave. You will be arrested.
Demonstrators assembled against the public health response to the COVID-19 pandemic, and new vaccination requirements for cross-border truckers were removed and arrested. Freedom! Some saw their bank accounts frozen.
Certainly, it was a sad day for Canadians when that happened.
Civil liberty groups launched a legal challenge.
Governments tend to panic and they overreact.
The federal court found Ottawa's use of special powers unreasonable, and now the Federal Court of Appeal has agreed.
I think the lesson here is that we need courts and the rule of law to keep our governments in check.
The appeals court found Cabinet didn't have reasonable grounds to believe a threat to national security existed and failed to exhaust all options before invoking the never-before-used measures.
What this means is that there is now some guidance and some clarity about how those powers to suspend people's civil liberties and fundamental freedoms, how those powers can be used.
Ottawa says it will take time to review the ruling before determining whether to seek an appeal at Canada's highest court.
We'll reserve judgment on the path forward until we have the opportunity to make a considered decision on that issue.
If the case does head to the Supreme Court of Canada, it would set a precedent on the use of the Emergencies Act and mark the final step in this legal battle that civil liberties groups say they're ready for. Olivia Stefanovich, CBC News, Ottawa.
Lab-grown diamonds are having a moment. They're cheaper, more accessible, and increasingly popular with buyers. But as demand surges, a CBC Marketplace investigation has discovered prices are anything but consistent. Asha Tomlinson shows us the same diamond can cost a lot more depending on where you shop.
How did you know, first off, that you were going to go lab-grown?
A lot cheaper. That was probably like the biggest thing.
We were kind of on the same page, so we're lucky that way.
Daniel Ng proposed to his fiancée, Olivia Chan, with a lab-grown diamond, and she helped choose the ring. They wanted a high-quality stone that fit their budget.
D color, 2.4-ish carats. It's between 3,000 to 6,000.
And if they went with a natural diamond, same specs?
At least 15,000, if not 20,000.
So that's a huge difference.
Yeah, crazy.
They're part of a growing trend. More Canadians are choosing lab diamonds over natural.
Today, it's probably you can get them for 90–95% less than an equivalent natural diamond. And it's an economy of scale business. So the more they produce, the lower the per unit cost. Okay. And this is why the price is dropping so precipitously.
To get an idea of the lab-grown landscape, we went shopping for bling online and bought 2 virtually identical stones. We purchased this one from Alibaba.com for around $230 all in. And this one from jewelry site Blue Nile cost us more than $1,600, 7 times the price of the other diamond.
I think that's mind-blowing. It just shows that we overpaid for this stuff.
Identical, no difference.
Jewelry appraiser Eddie Young confirmed the stones are authentic. They're the same quality and should be the same price. And he encourages consumers to shop around. Sound advice, according to this bride-to-be.
People are going to start doing their homework, and they might not get the same clientele that they used to if this is what's going on.
Signet Jewelers, which owns Blue Nile, won't go on camera to tell us why their diamond was more expensive. Instead, they sent a statement maintaining they have strong sourcing standards and follow ethical, sustainable practices. Asha Tomlinson, CBC News, Toronto.
You can watch Asha's full marketplace investigation, Diamonds on a Dime, tonight at 8 on CBC. A Brandon housing project is aiming to help men start over after being behind bars. We'll have more on that ahead. A nonprofit is getting set to open 24 transitional housing units aimed at helping men leaving incarceration or homelessness. The goal is to help move them toward permanent housing. It will be a first of its kind for Brandon. CBC's Chelsea Kemp has that story.
Construction is nearly complete on a 24-unit transitional housing complex in Brandon. Housing Director Carla McDonald says residents could move in by the end of February. The goal is to give them stability, skills, and a path to permanent housing.
There's not a lot for single people just coming out of unfortunate situations, so I think that's a big thing. And the people are ready to be here, and they're ready to grow, and they're ready to heal, and just supporting them on their new journey is going to be exciting.
Chronic homelessness is on the rise. Experts say it jumped almost 20% in 2025 compared to the year before. Rebecca Anhalt says housing for men is a major need, especially for those coming out of incarceration. They account for about a third of those experiencing homelessness in the city.
People are discharged into homelessness, and then they have no income, they have no resources, they have no medication, they don't have what they need to be successful back in the community, so then they wind up back in corrections.
The focus at the complex will be on sober living, life skills, and preventing a return to homelessness, says Ross Robinson, Executive Director of Brandon's John Howard Society.
It's just a big change. And so you need to kind of soften that down by permitting people to go into transitional housing and to develop the skills so they can be successful.
At the heart of the programming will be connecting folks with their culture. McDonald says that means helping clients reconnect with their identity and community to help on their housing journey.
Regardless of where their cultural stems from, I think that connecting back to their roots and their sense of identity is going to be a big thing in healing and going on their journeys.
Clients don't apply directly for housing at the complex. They're placed through Brandon's coordinated access or the justice system. If all goes according to plan, they'll be moving there in about a month. Chelsea Kemp, CBC News, Brandon.
The province is looking at how artificial intelligence can best be used in classrooms. The first Winnipeg AI Education Summit was held today. It was looking at how AI can be used not only productively, but responsibly in classrooms. Wab Canoe says he has reservations about it being used to monitor students and Manitobans.
The mission that you are setting out to accomplish with young people in the classes and schools across our province requires a protected zone of privacy. And AI, on the one hand, probably one of the greatest learning tools that we've ever invented as a species in the historic sweep of time. On the other hand, probably one of the more efficient surveillance tools.
Canoe says Manitoba is working on an AI implementation plan. He says the government will start looking at AI infrastructure while considering the social implications as it becomes more widely used. All right, Riley back in now. Riley, it has been a busy and dangerous day out on the roads, many highway closures. That blowing snow really probably the biggest problem that we were seeing in many parts today.
Yeah, partially because that snow is really dry and fluffy. It was those big fluffy flakes that fell last night, and combine that with not a lot of wind. I mean, wind's up to 60, but still doesn't take a lot of wind to really start pushing some of that around. So a night to stay inside for sure. For a cat nap, even into the day tomorrow. That's leading us into Feline Friday. I've got a couple, still a few holdouts from the holiday season. I know I've been backlogged a little bit here, but we're going to get through some of these here. First up, Denny sending us Miss Meow Meow in her favorite spot, clearly inside the Christmas tree. I don't know where that favorite spot might be now, but thank you for sending this picture in. One more for you, Forrest and Benny, enjoying perhaps a bit of time outside in maybe a slightly warmer season. Thank you, Edna, for sending this picture in, and please keep yours coming to talkback@cbc.ca. So as we get through the day tomorrow, temperatures, as I'll show you through the overnight forecast, drop to around -22 in Winnipeg, still staying very windy into the morning hours, but as we get through the day, we'll start to see things lightening up a bit, but then the cloud starts to build in ahead of the next system. So we don't really go anywhere substantially temperature-wise tomorrow. We kind of hang around the -21, -22 mark throughout much of the day. So we're still dealing with quite a bit of blowing snow, quite a bit of visibility problems, particularly outside the city tonight, looking at -16 right now in Winnipeg. North winds gusting at 37 to 48 at the moment. So we are looking at some very windy conditions pretty much across southern and central Manitoba and along the Hudson Bay coast at this point. Across the rest of the south, temperatures at the moment around -17 through Brandon, Melita, -19s into Dauphin and Swan River, and along the Hudson Bay coast, looking at temperatures already near or below the -30 mark, with the wind chill feeling closer to the -46 mark in Churchill again. This is where we have that extreme cold warning in place through the overnight hours tonight, and actually lasting all the way until Monday at this point, where we could see frostbite on exposed skin in minutes. So some very cold conditions coming as we get through the coming days. Temperatures drop toward -25, -26 in the west, could drop closer to -30 in Roblin overnight tonight. -30s, 31s through the Pas, OCN into Flin Flon, -34 in Thompson overnight tonight, and temperatures rebounding into the -20s as we get through tomorrow. Then there's that next system, again a quick mover, so by supper time in places like Flin Flon and the Pas, this is already out of the way as we get through the day tomorrow. In the south, we get some sunshine first off, get some nice clearing, still a bit on the breezy side, and then you'll start to see the next round coming as we get into the later afternoon hours in the west and overnight into Sunday morning through the Red River Valley and parts of the Interlake. And with this again, Brittany, some wind in behind this, so prepare for a windy weekend ahead.
All right, thanks, Riley.
You're welcome.
Okay, well, while it's cold outside, there's still a place you can escape to get a taste of warmer weather and even the tropics. Fleurs de Villes Wonder is now underway at the Leaf at Assiniboine Park. It features one-of-a-kind botanical creations inspired by French lavender fields, the Great Barrier Reef, and the Amazon. CBC got a sneak peek inside.
Fleurs de Villes is thrilled to be back here in Winnipeg at Assiniboine Park at the Leaf. This is called Fleurs de Villes Wonder. So we are evoking the natural wonders of the world, transporting people through florals to see them come to life. What you'll see here down at the Leaf is 15 creative installations, each based on a different wonder of the world, natural wonder of the world, and they've all been created by local florists. Each florist is given a creative brief on their natural wonder, and they're challenged to bring it to life using nothing but natural materials. So it could be seeds and pods and stems and branches and moss in addition to flowers. Each one has been given a different assignment, from the monarch butterfly migration to the Great Barrier Reef to the Jeddah Grotto in Lebanon. What we try to do is bring to life the artistic side of florists. Instead of just bouquet, 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 they get to do something really creative and showcase their talent as an artist. We deliver a mannequin to the florist about 2 weeks ahead of the show, but each one takes around 100 to 150, sometimes 200 hours. One of the greatest parts of my job is seeing the reaction that people have to seeing the mannequins and the creations. It's just visceral. It doesn't matter what language you speak, how much money is in your bank, everyone loves flowers. And to see them creating something so entirely different and special, it's awe-inspiring. It really is. This is really perishable art. So you might see the lavender fields of France, and it's got really tight gladiolas. Well, in 2 days from now, those gladiolas are going to be blooming. So things are in different stages of growth and bloom, but we're constantly keeping an eye on things and refreshing the flowers as well. The show runs 10 days, so even if you come on day 9 or day 10, you're going to see beautiful installations. We're constantly refreshing product and staying on top of them so that they look spectacular.
All right, now back to a taste of winter. The Winter Olympics is just a few weeks away, but at this time in 2010, it was Canada's turn in the spotlight as the Vancouver Olympics were about to get underway. The Olympic torch relay wound its way through Manitoba in January of that year. So here's a look back at its arrival in Winnipeg.
Olympic spirit is alive and well in Winnipeg tonight as thousands of people turn out to welcome the Olympic flame to our province. And this is what it's all about.
All the way from ancient Greece through eastern Canada, the Olympic flame finally made it into Manitoba, stopping first in Falcon Lake, Richer, St. Anne, and Steinbach, before reaching Winnipeg and an excited crowd in Transcona. The first torchbearer was more than ready as people waited in anticipation to see the official lighting of the torch before it headed further east down Regent and onto Nairn. Jennifer Hamilton had her turn to run with the torch for 300 meters before she passed it on.
Oh, it was awesome. It was the thrill of a lifetime.
Every meter the torch went, crowds of people were there to share the moment. As the torch run snaked through downtown, more people were waiting at the forks. The flame had to share a bit of the limelight, though. Local artists were on stage and on the ground, entertaining the crowds of people who didn't seem to mind the chill in the air. But promptly at 7, all eyes turned onto the stage as the Olympic flame made it to the forks. Brothers Drew and Ethan stood in awe in front of the whole crowd.
How did you get in front of the line?
I crawled.
Is it worth it?
Yep.
Yeah.
Sheila North Wilson, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Still ahead, on the loose. Police in Florida try their best to corral a suspect. We'll have more on that next. NASA officials say they're ready to move the Artemis II rocket into position for a possible launch in just weeks from now.
There's a milestone upon us, and we are approaching a big one for us as it relates to Artemis II tomorrow.
That's when the towering rocket will be rolling out to its launch pad at the Kennedy Space Center. The craft consists of a Space Launch System rocket and the Orion spacecraft. 4 astronauts, including Canada's Jeremy Hansen, will travel around the moon and back over 10 days. The soonest possible launch date is February 6th.
All right, let's have a look at radar before I leave you for the weekend here. Not a lot of snow out there, some light precipitation. However, it's the wind that's really been blowing things around pretty much across southern Manitoba, but particularly on the Trans-Canada Highway 75. That's where we've seen some highway closures, so take that into consideration if you've got travel plans as we get through the night tonight. Tomorrow, temperature hangs around -22. We'll get into some clearing first, then the cloud starts to build back in. We'll actually warm up to -14 overnight into Sunday morning. Then as that next system passes through, into Sunday morning, we'll see the temperature dropping in behind that to -20, around -19, a bit of extra cloud cover hanging around into Monday. That follows another chance we could see some flurries into Tuesday. And temperatures, as you can see, remaining below seasonal for this time of the year as we get right toward the end of next week, and a good chance of flurries again by the time we get to next Friday. Well, police in Florida had their hands full trying to capture a very stubborn suspect.
And the entire operation captured on an officer's body camera. Here's your daily lift.
This way. Go. Keep going. This way. You know, some big old talons. Come here. Come on. Come on. Is this where you live? I'll be honest with you, I've never handcuffed an emu before.
Yes, that is an emu, and he is very fast. A deputy was finally able to secure the runaway bird using a lasso and handcuffs.
Well, that is creative. Neither he nor the emu were injured during this hot pursuit. Authorities say the bird was reunited with its owners and was returned back home safely.
He was quick.
That was very fast.
You see him just woof, take off.
Wouldn't want to encounter that.
Thankfully, I don't think any emus on the loose here.
Let's hope not.
All right, stay inside, stay warm,
Yeah,
stay safe.
See ya.